Hello and good afternoon. Yes, welcome to the Skoog webinar. Sorry about the slight false start there. Yeah, let's get started. I'll stop this. Sorry, I was just working with some of the new loops that we've got available. It was a nice kind of jazz one, kind of big band feel, which is quite fitting really, because what I'm talking about today is using Skoog, which is this. So Skoog is a tactile, soft controller with its own software, which is it's a musical instrument created for people who find it difficult to access or play traditional instruments. However, what it does, what it was built for, is it emulates the sound of traditional brass, woodwind, percussion, and strings using physical modeling, enabling students to use Skoog and its associated software packages to take part in band or orchestra or ensembles, compose, engage in creative music making of all kinds. So what I want to do is share with you some of the things that we've learned in helping with this type of provision, something that's happening more and more with the sort of inclusive agenda in education, and we've seen a lot in the last year, particularly in the UK, in terms of support for music in education and trying to make sure that, you know, there's this consistent claim that every child must have access to learning an instrument and having the opportunity to play in groups and engage in music making in that way. And using Skoog as a piece of assistive technology for students unable to use traditional instruments, you can totally achieve that. And that's something we've seen happen on a variety of fronts and something we're very proud to be part of. So I just want to start off by, I've got a few questions. I was doing a recent consultation with Midlothian in reference to what they're doing on the instrumental service. And there's two key ways that we see Skoog being used these days. I mean, very quickly, so Skoog, this is the sensor. It can be mounted. So here I've got mine today on a Skoog mount kit, which is an articulated arm with two suction cups. I've got mine just on a post here. And one of these mounts is probably pretty, not crucial, but very useful if you're talking in the context of, you know, using it in a band or orchestra, because you can fix the Skoog, and also as a teacher you can make sure that the Skoog is presented in the same way each time, which will allow a more consistent presentation and allow a student to learn and develop their skill on the instrument much better than if it's kind of here or it's there. It would be like someone keeping on switching the strings on your cello or changing where the valves are. You know, if you're wanting to use it to develop instrumental skill and group sort of musicianship, then you need to be able to present it in the same way each time. So yes, so this is mounted and it's connected to a computer. Mine's running on an iMac at the moment. We do completely support Windows as well. And the key thing with the Skoog Music software package is that the way that we deliver the software is via download, and each Skoog has a roaming site license, which means that effectively when you have Skoog or access to a Skoog, you don't have to be the owner. You're able to download the software to run natively on a host machine of your choice. So it could be on your laptop as a teacher, it could be on the machine that's in the band room, or also could be on a student's home computer or laptop, which means that very, very importantly in this context, that type of software provision, the way that we provide this kind of blanket access to the stuff that makes this work, means that students who are playing Skoog as part of band or doing lessons can take it home and practice. And we all know we need to practice. I did a post recently about practice. Actually, one of the best, well, we were discussing ways of trying to get students to practice, and the way I've always engaged in that is by giving them stuff they want to play. The musical learnings and the musicianship will come no matter what they're playing. Well, depending on the material in terms of its complexity. But if they're enjoying, you know, if there's stuff that they want to play, then they're more likely to go and practice it. Anyway, so here we go. Let me just give you a quick look. So the software and all the resources are accessible on different platforms, variety of levels, in different ways. I just want to do a quick screen share. So for those of you not familiar with Skoog or the Skoog kind of software, I just want to show you very quickly how it works. So let's just, I'm going to flip over here. Is this sharing screen yet? Hello, screen share. Start screen share, please. Desktop, start screen share. There we go. So you can see my screen now, and it's my Google page there. And this is the Skoog software. So I'm just going to open up a little, let me just open up Photo Booth so you can see what I'm doing to the interface as well whilst I do this. This is quite important. Just to get out the full picture, what's going on here. Let's just shut that down. So, come on, Photo Booth, where are you? You're still bouncing around in the dock. There you are. We'll stick you over here. So now you can see me. Hello. Now, this is the software environment. So it tells me where I'm touching it. It allows you to make adjustments to the Skoog, which is crucial for how you set this up for supporting different types of activities. And the two activities that I kind of want to talk about today are use of Skoog in band or orchestra groups, or more widely as well, the use of Skoog to support inclusive music opportunities. So that's more you providing a kind of group music making forum or a place where kids can come and make music. Sometimes often done in life skills class in the US, I'm told. You know, a kind of club kind of vibe where everyone gets to have a go. And that often involves students with varying learning support needs or disabilities, and I want to talk about how you can use it in that context as well. But we're going to do the band stuff first. So this is my Skoog software, and it allows me to change the sensitivity, it allows me to set the notes now. So the way that Skoog works is you choose it to be an instrument, flute at the moment, and then you assign a note to each surface, okay? So you can have 5 notes at a time. Yes, it is a limitation, but those 5 notes can be changed, and there's a lot that you can do with that. And particularly at the earlier stages of band or orchestra, where you're, you know, working with students and maybe able to play 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 notes. Then with that, you can do, you know, you can do a lot. And in traditional teaching contexts, you know, in terms of starting with young musicians, that's often how, you know, how we start, either with open strings or a simple 2, 3 note kind of recorder group, and there's lots of pieces you can use to do that with. Very importantly, I want to stress that this is an instrument, so in terms of resources, yes, we have lots of resources available to you, but the resources are the same as they would be for any instrument, because this is an instrument that you can play music with. So anything you've got in your beginner's brass, anything you've got in your beginner's woodwind groups, all of those things are accessible and usable by this, and I'll show you how, basically. So changing notes, we do that on this page, this tab in the software. Choosing different instruments, here is this on this section, and you do that by simply selecting an image of the instrument you want. And so we've got bowed strings, plucked woodwind, some brass, some percussion. Now there isn't everything, but these are, like I said, these are physical modeled. The difference with these, so I'm going to change some expression. You can hear I can actually change the mouth shape. I can get some more realistic qualities, and there's a very direct physical correlation between how I press and touch and squeeze the Skoog and how it actually creates the sound. So it's not MIDI, it's not sampling, but it can do those things that you want. But I'm not going to dwell on the technology side of things today. It's more about the implementation. So if you do have questions or interest in the technology and how it's implemented, please do check out the website, check out the other webinars, or sign up for one of the Getting to Grips with Skoog webinars, and that is more of a full tour of all the things you can do with Skoog and how they may work. So this is where we choose instruments. Just very quickly, this is sampling, this is MIDI, this is discrete, advanced setting adjustment. This we'll need to look at a little bit. These are built-in color scores, and actually that's an important point we need to look at. We won't use these today. But the main thing, in terms of working in a band or orchestra group, are choosing an instrument. So should we work with cello? Okay, the cello model. Let's select that. Now you must wait for the selection box to appear. And so, particularly in terms of working as a teacher in this, you would probably, in a group like this, be working with that. Once you've made a choice, if you're playing a part and building a part for that, then you're going to be keeping it on this setting for that student. And obviously, the great thing is it can be different instruments for different students and different groups, so making it quite a cost-effective way of implementing this kind of strategy. So we're going to go with cello. Okay, and then what you would then need to do is set the notes. Now this is related to whether you're setting notes for a particular melody for a piece, but we'll get there in a second. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to set it to the open strings of a cello, because that's often where we would start working with early strings. So in order to set the notes on each color, each side, I go select a user defined from the scale menu, and then simply click a color and then select that on the keyboard. So I'm going to go G, oh, wait, no. G, D, and I want A, oh, get out of the way, and G, D, A, and E. Sorry. Where are we? Yeah. Now that's a bit high. I'm going to have to. So what I'm going to then do is I'm going to save those as a set of notes. My open strings. I call that open cello, and you can see very easy to save. You just click the save icon, put it somewhere sensible. I'm going to put mine on the desktop. Save, and I'm actually going to bring that down an octave using the transpose. That's more. Getting a bit of a glitch in my machine there. So there I have got my open cello strings, and if I press lightly, it's quiet. If I press hard, it's louder. And at the moment, it's set on mono, so I can only play one at a time. So if I'm holding this one down, I can only play one at a time. Now, because the cello has only 4 strings, I'm going to stick to that. Now, what I might do if I was working class, I might use the orange button to do first position on the G string and add that in as an A. But I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the top off. So I just have 4. Now that means going into the advanced settings and selecting that channel and turning it off. So now I've got my 4 strings there. So that's me set up to do an open strings class. Now, how do you do the score? So now you could simply communicate to the student that these are this is what the strings are and these are the note names. But if you're working to support children possibly with learning difficulties, you might want to make use of the color, make use of our kind of colored scoring system. So, sorry, a bit of a frog in my throat. So, in that context, what am I looking for? Resource pack, not there. Let's go to my Finder. I want to look at score pack. Score and a notation pack is what I'm looking for. This is free from our site. Notation. Score notation. Oh, I missed him. Where did he go? Come on, you little fella. Let's have you. Score notation pack. There it is. So you can download this from our website, and using this there is a handy guide, lovely crafted by Maggie, here we are, look, which has all the information you need to utilize this pack, a section on the sizes. And now using this, you can use the score templates. Let's open a Word one, okay? So this gives you the template, and then using this you can create colored scores. So we could take a simple piece of music, a simple continue. Oh, I haven't used Word on this machine for some time, so I think what we're going to do is quit that, and we're going to open up a different template. Hopefully this will open up. So what you then do is using, oh no, finish, let's go. Oh, no, let's do it manually. Let's get rid of that. What does that mean? Is it going to open? Alright, well, I've got a bit of a problem with the word processing on this machine, but what you get is a template into which you can use and insert the various note colors. So you can see here these block colors, and what they then allow you to create are scores like this. So blocks of color representing different notes, different durations, and obviously able to convey rhythmic patterning. So you can create these yourself, you can download materials from the website of stuff that's already been transposed, or you can use the resources that we've got here. So the score notation back will be a really important one for you. The other one to download is Learning Traditional Notation. This has, again, a whole bunch of resources. And what this does is provide a bridge between the basic colored block notation and then using that with a combination of traditional notation and color to allow the students to progress. And actually, one way that we do it, it's very low-fi, low-tech, is Staples or other big stationery stores. They have packs of stickers of colored dots in the 5 colors that Skoog is my primary colors, and you can use those and just annotate the score. So moving on from open strings, nice and easy, we could do that. Although the sound on my machine seems to have gone a little bit iffy. I might have to restart. I actually know what I can do. With Skoog software, when troubleshooting bugs, sometimes you do have issues with some of the models because they do place demands on the processor. And often, if you do have an issue with the sound of an instrument, simply deselecting the instrument, selecting it again, should. There we go. That'll fix that. Okay, so that's setting the notes, and so you would set them to be the open strings, and you could do any kind of open strings material with that. Same for the other things. But as you move on, you perhaps then start doing tunes where you want to actually use the Skoog to play a particular part. Now, in online as well, we've got notes, a PDF on our extras page about arranging music for Skoog. So how to make best use of those 5 notes, where to place the notes, that kind of thing. So that's worth accessing from the website, get a download and see how you go there. I've just noted my Q&A app isn't on, so I'm just going to try and... Oh, what's happened? I've lost my mouse. Hello? No? I'm having some real issues with Google today. I was going to try and access the Q&A there just to check if anyone's on. So set the notes to either an open strings or whole tones kind of thing, whatever you need the notes to be, and you can use that. And you can obviously save these presets for use later. Okay. The other thing that you would be doing is if you wanted to use the Skoog to play, the Skoog player to play a particular melody part. Now let's have a look at the Learning Traditional Notation pack. So it's got some good examples. If I look at, this is based on Les Sanctuaires by Stravinsky. So here I have a score like this piece here. It's 5 notes. And so I need to set the notes on the Skoog to be able to play that. It's very simple, and it's again simply click on a color, select the appropriate note in the octave range on the keyboard. Once they're set, you can save them. So, and then when you've saved them, in order to load those in again, you can just click the open button here. And well, let's do this. Jump to the join example. So I've loaded those notes in. Let's get rid of this. And let's get rid of that. And then I could choose to use this type of score for the student. So, oh, I've turned the top off, haven't I? Let's turn that back on. I want that. And I can play along, or I could use more traditional notation and annotate it for the student using color, or simply we could say, you know, if we have a more able student to say, well, this is where the G is, this is where the A is, and that's what you have to read, G, A, B, C, D. That's what you have to read in the score, and use it that way. So in those instances, either by using the colored scoring technique or simply just as an accessible interface, you can support students working in an instrumental group context, both those with physical access issues or those who have faced cognitive challenges in taking part in the orchestra. And actually, the colored score technique that we use, you could actually use that for a variety of different applications. You could use tuned percussion and remove some of the bars, and then use colored stickers to annotate the actual physical percussion to use it that way. It's an approach that works very well. There are other systems that use a similar approach, such as figure notes. That's a very good thing as well, and it's that kind of concrete relationship between the object and the score in terms of the color really helps students move through and enable their participation. So what I'd like to do now, very quickly, if it works, I'd like to play a quick video from YouTube to show you an example of this being achieved in a classroom context. So bear with me. I'm going to try and get, oh, there's my mouse. I'm going to try and get this Google hand to respond to some technical. There we go. I'm going to snip into YouTube, and hopefully this will. Come on, YouTube. Let's have you. Yay! So I'm just going to show you one clip here, and I think this conveys very well what I've just been talking at, and then I'd like to spend the next kind of 10 or 15 minutes talking more about inclusion in terms of an experiential kind of context. So I'm going to add a video to this playlist, but I'm going to select Skoog inclusion. I'm hoping that it's going to find the video for me. Yes, here it is. So I'm going to click add. That should be added now. Oh, sorry to have left you. I got cut off by Google. I'm going to actually stay away from the video examples, and what I will do is I will email out the links that I wanted to show you, because I don't want to interrupt this feed once again and with the app going wrong. So in order to use it in that kind of group instrumental context, it really is just about setting the Skoog up as the instrument you want it to be, assigning the notes that you require to it, and then using an annotated score, or either our type of block color or an annotated traditional score, to support the student in that context. We talked briefly about using a mount kit to make sure it was presented correctly. And that is one thing, again, possibly with this is of use in the presentation of the instrument. Often at an angle can be slightly easier. It depends. You will need to work with the students to find the best place to place it, because importantly with Skoog, I don't have to play it like this. I can rest on it and wiggle it. And use it in lots of different ways. I would suggest that you actually engage the polyphonic mode on Skoog, so it's behaving more like the instrument it's emulating. In order to do that, you can check out how to. It's a button at the bottom right hand of the Skoog window that says mono or poly, and so if you select poly, now I can play more than one at a time. So it gives a more, I suppose, a more realistic representation. But it does make it more accessible. So going back to the accessibility features, with the sensitivity turned up and poly engaged and the calibration done at the right angle, then you can set it up in a way that's going to really suit. And although I did stress things about repeated presentation and consistency, don't be scared to evolve how the student works with the Skoog and how you work with them. A top tip is leading by example, and this actually covers all Skoog activities. As the teacher or as the band leader, make sure you're able, at least run through the parts yourself a little bit first, so that you can help the student and show them by example. Because again, one of the great things with Skoog as an instrument is it's visually all out here, and so you can, if I say, well, it's if we do it a gentle and then a long, you can see what I'm doing, and you're able to show students. So do get familiar with the device yourself. Be able to play it. It is a very intuitive, simple, easy musical instrument. And actually, for some people who are used to traditional instruments, that can wrong foot you a little bit, because you expect there to be maybe a higher level of complexity, but it's just a very direct relationship with sound that you have. So do get involved in the parts yourself. Other thing I wanted to mention before we go on to the kind of group inclusion work, in terms of just kind of inclusive musical experiences, is talking a bit. I'm wheezing. I think I need my inhaler. Is making sure that so if you're working in a group and everyone is playing acoustic instruments, you have one student playing Skoog, you have to make sure they've got a good, clear and consistent amplified sound. Skoog is run on a computer, and it will only sound as good as the computer speaker that it's playing through. Please don't use the built-in speakers on a laptop. It will just sound weak or not loud enough, and it will stand out as different from the rest. One of the reasons why you may choose Skoog, well, one of the many reasons to choose Skoog as the way of enhancing this type of provision, is the fact that it does provide a very true and realistic acoustic sound, replicates them using physical modeling. We recommend use of something like this, like a Bose SoundLink Mini or a Bose Soundwave. Yes, they are pricey at kind of, I think these are about $200, there's about $300, maybe more, but the quality of sound you get is so much better. There's other products available, like in Music's iLoud. That's a great one. It has a very accessible volume knob. Or something like, if you can get one, a Bose L1, which is a beautiful sound and a large stage presence. But the key thing is to have something that is powerful enough to give the student a sound, but also you don't want it to be going through a massive PA or speaker so that it deafens everyone else. You know, you want the student to be able to sit on a level playing field and for their sound to sit well with the other musicians, is why this size of device is much better, I would say, in those contexts. So make sure you've got a good sound source, and make sure as well that the speaker is positioned where the student is. So that in the same way with acoustic sounds, the violin sound comes out of the violin, and so the violin section, we can hear and see them all there, and we know where they are. Please make sure you have a point location sound source for the Skoog to make sure that it contributes to the orchestral sound in the same way. And it will give it a more realistic feel, it will give the student their sense of identity and advocacy, and it will make the whole thing for you as a teacher, in terms of being able to work with everyone and know where everyone is, it will make it easier for you. Okay, so that was just some tips and notes on using it in that way. Again, you know, either using it set to the open strings or kind of simple tones, or using it to play a melody by setting particular notes on each surface and using scores, and you know, and getting students to practice. I mean, one way that you can get students to practice is by, particularly with Skoog, allowing them to improvise using the pentatonics to popular songs that they maybe are listening to at home, and getting them to practice specific things like, well, okay, you can go and, you know, play along with whatever. I was going to say Vampire Weekend or something like that. That's great. You can play along with them. But what I want you to practice is playing triplets and playing syncopated rhythm. And the students could even record using the Skoog software what they've been doing, and you could possibly review what they've been doing, and you know, have a chat to them about it and say, well, that's not really triplets there. You're playing it. You're actually playing in four. You know, there's lots of, you know, it's just similar to how you would progress, you know, with a traditional instrument. But actually, that is an important feature of Skoog, the fact that you can record what you're playing internally in the software. So I would also advise getting students who are rehearsing to record at least one of their rehearsals for you to be able to review, because it allows you to sort of be a fly on the wall and sit in, and you can, you know, give them pointers and, you know, allow them to, you know, develop what they're doing. Okay, so yes, really quite simple in a way to use it in that context. You know, you choose one instrument, set the notes to be what you require, and then you spend the rest of your time, hopefully, helping the student access the device, helping the student find the right playing position, and then playing with everyone else and having to practice and having to listen and having to focus and having to coordinate themselves with everyone else to deliver the performance the way it's required. Okay, so moving on. I want to talk a bit now about a sort of inclusive musical opportunities. And we find this is another area. I mean, this is a really strong application of Skoog as a technology, as an assistive technology. And this is a growing type of practice. So this is where you bring a group of people together of different abilities. And you know, you may have a couple of Skoogs, a sound beam, some tuned percussion, some guitars, some ukuleles, a range of different things. Okay. And again, what you need to do there is to make sure that as many people have got a successful kind of interface and contribution that they can make. Well, the easiest ways of doing that is having everything tuned to the same open chord, possibly. That works well for strings and guitars and ukuleles and stuff, that's fine. And you can obviously also do the same with Skoog, but and provide that kind of group work. But let's focus on a particular example, which I was asked to focus on, which is I have a group of students and there is one student with physical and mild learning difficulties wanting to take part. They can all play, not some better than others, but we've got a guy that plays the drums, we've got two people on keys, and I have one student who plays woodwind, and I'm playing guitar. And I want to include this other student who has physical challenge, cerebral palsy, is unable to actually hold or access any instruments we have, but we want to be able to include them. And one way you can do that is using Skoog, obviously, as access. But in terms of setting Skoog up for an inclusive kind of engagement like that, what is really useful is being able to use the pentatonic settings on Skoog, so to enable the student to improvise and engage with the group in a successful and creative way. So I'm going to do a screen share again. Hopefully this won't ruin the session. Let's go there. Okay, screen sharing. So you can come back again here and just pop that over there. So you can see the Skoog. So in those contexts, my Skoog here, we would set up, and we would perhaps allow the student to choose their instrument of contribution. So as a student, I'm going to choose the pluck string, the steel string guitar. Remember, you have to wait for that selection box to move. There it goes. There we go, and I've got my strings. And now I'm going to use the pentatonic presets. Minor. And this means that, and actually with the guitars, you're better off with the guitar ones. Okay, and this with the pentatonic settings, if you know what, so you can set, so if you're playing a particular song, say we were playing Lean On Me as a group, okay, nice classic as you were. I'm going to see if I can pull it up on YouTube. Excuse me a minute while I do. So say as a group in our skills class, we were working on Lean On Me, okay? And I'm going to see if I can pull that. So in order to engage the Skoog in this kind of inclusion context, I want to give the student the right key, dial it into the Skoog, and then we can all play together and the Skoog player can contribute. Now, other thing that you can do, because it is actually, you may have the laptop near you, remember the speaker with the, and the Skoog with the student, and you could possibly mute it at certain points if you wanted to kind of, you know, in terms of saying, well, we're going to do this section with Graham and you're going to have to wait for your section, and you may, you know, have the option of muting the Skoog so that they do have to wait and they're learning a bit about turn taking and having to wait until it is actually their part to play and do things like that. And the way you would do that is there's a mute button on the Skoog software there, so you can just turn it on or off, which is actually a very useful feature in all kinds of situations. Sometimes you do need to shut things down so you can get the class back, so you can calm things down, or you know, just get a bit quiet. Okay. Now, just wait for this website to come up. So I'm going to go to the Skoog page here just to get myself some resources. So we're going to do Lean On Me. This is going to take a little moment because the web is being very slow. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause my Dropbox from syncing. I think that might help speed things up a bit. Yes, it did. So I go here to popular tunes. There's all kinds of transcriptions, all kinds of songs done. There's in excess of, I think, 200 songs in this kind of Skoog songbook available to you. But I just want to look for Lean On Me because it's quite a popular little piece. I'm looking, scrolling down the page. It really is taking quite a long time to load up. But what I'm looking for here is to get some information about the key and also to get a link to play it on YouTube so I can play along with it for you to show you what I mean. Now, stop me when you see it. Oh, I've missed it. Come on. Where is it? Nirvana. Eugene. Oh, I can't seem to see it. Well, you know what? We'll do Feather in Blue Jeans. So let's do Sweet Caroline. Okay, Neil Diamond. It's in B major. So if now that we know what key the tune we're trying to do is, and I'm just using this as source material. So if we were doing Sweet Caroline, which I'm sure a lot of modern life skills classes for young teenagers wouldn't be doing, but I'm partial to a bit of Neil Diamond, so let's do this. Let's do this. We need B major. So I go to my Notes tab, and I select major, and I go B. So there we go. And then then I would be able to play with the song that we're playing as a group. Importantly, if we're working live, going back to the Skoog software here, on the notes page there is there's a tuning slider. because you may want to tune to acoustically to the group as opposed to just trusting the the computer tuning. And that again is important for working in live contexts, and being able to support students in those kind of group elements. So yeah, make use of these items. They really help. So now let's click the link and let's just see if we can get this to work to show you what I mean. So using the pentatonic presets, you're able to include students in a kind of improvised music making experience with others. So either all being tuned to the same scale, so you can just have a kind of free kind of improvised inclusive session, or using a piece of music with scored, or in this instance having a song and having the Skoog set to the right pentatonic to improvise along to the song if it ever loads up. So I'm going to let that buffer up for a minute, and I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to go back to my... Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. I'm going to stop the screen share. There we go.
Where it began, I can't begin to know, but then I know it's growing strong. Wasn't the spring, and spring became the summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along?
There, so I'm able to play along and engage. We could start, as I was doing then, working on a part where I was following the shape of the melody, so going up and coming down at the right points. Sorry, Neil, I'm going to have to cut you off. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into how you could use it in that way. And I think it's really, I've seen it used in that way incredibly effectively to increase engagement, and often possibly providing that kind of improvising platform for kids to express themselves initially as a way of hooking them in, and then they'll most often they go on from that to wanting to nail a part, and fix something down into a pattern, start learning a sequence, and also making their own little parts for tunes. So as well as including them in terms of inclusive performance, you're also actually engaging them in a creative process of writing and composition. So I hope that's been useful today. I mean, what we focus on today specifically is really setting the notes, tuning, saving those note sets, and making use of the preset pentatonics. We've talked about making sure you have a point sound source. What I mean by that is a single speaker, not a stereo PA system or something, but a single speaker, like a traditional backline, but we tend to recommend these kind of, because it's running off a computer, more of a kind of audio, like a produced audio sound like those, to give the student a fair representation within the group that allows them to play on a kind of level with their peers playing the acoustic instruments. Placement of the Skoog in terms of angle, height, and adjustment to really make sure it's set at a height that is most accessible to the user. Placement of notes on the Skoog can often allow things to be easier or more difficult to play, and that's all covered in the Arranging Music for Skoog PDF that you can download from our website. We also have the Learning Traditional Notation pack. We also have Arranging Music for Skoog and the Notation pack. And crucially, if you're working within a band context, the Notation pack will be a must for you to download. So I hope that's been informative. Please do contact us by email or phone. The details are on our website. You can get me at ben@skoogmusic.com, and we will, happy to answer any questions. If you have suggestions for other topics you'd like to see covered in webinars, please do get in touch as well. We do rely on the feedback from the viewers to see what it is that they need covered. We're sort of working from what our experiences day to day here, and sometimes in different institutions and different kind of curricular demands mean that you might want different elements covered. Next webinar is on Monday, which is a general introduction to Skoog and the technology, and more of a kind of show and tell about all the things you can do with it. So if you're interested, please do go along to the web pages and sign up. remember, you can always view them remotely on YouTube after the fact. So I hope this has been successful. I'm sorry about some of the technical hitches we had, and as I said, I will email out the links to the inclusion videos that I wanted to show. All the best, take care, and I'll see you on Monday.